Jeffrey Ramos never imagined his botanical expertise would lead to an alien world fascinated by human reproduction. As his research vessel spiraled towards the uncharted planet Illyria, alarms blared and warnings flashed across the control panel. The ship's navigation system had failed catastrophically, leaving Jeffrey helpless as the verdant surface rushed to meet him. The impact shook the vessel violently, scattering equipment and samples throughout the cabin. Jeffrey's head throbbed as he regained consciousness, the acrid smell of burning circuitry filling his nostrils. He unstrapped himself from the pilot's seat, limbs aching from the crash. With trembling hands, he activated the emergency hatch release. As the door hissed open, Jeffrey's eyes widened in awe. Before him stretched a landscape unlike any he'd encountered in his 35 years as an interstellar explorer. Massive flora dominated the horizon, their colors vibrant and otherworldly. The air hung thick with sweet, unfamiliar scents that made his head spin. Jeffrey stumbled from the wreckage, his boots sinking into soft, spongy ground. He froze as movement caught his eye. From behind a cluster of iridescent fronds emerged a figure that defied belief. It appeared humanoid, yet its skin resembled polished bark, and what could only be described as leaves cascaded from its head like hair. The being approached cautiously, its gaze fixed on Jeffrey with unmistakable curiosity. As it drew closer, Jeffrey realized it possessed feminine features. She raised a hand, fingers unfurling like petals, and touched his forehead. Suddenly, a voice resonated in Jeffrey's mind. "I am Deneb. You are different, not like us." Jeffrey recoiled, startled by the telepathic communication. "I'm human," he managed to reply aloud. "From Earth. My ship crashed." Deneb's head tilted, leaves rustling. Human. Earth. These words are unknown to us Illyrians. You are mammal? Jeffrey nodded, his scientific curiosity overriding his shock. Yes, and you're plant-based life forms? We are Illyrians, Deneb affirmed. We reproduce through pollination. Your form is strange to us. How do you breed? The directness of the question caught Jeffrey off guard. He cleared his throat, unsure how to respond. It's, complicated. We have a different biological process. Deneb's eyes gleamed with interest. You must come to our hive city. The Council of Elders will want to study you. Your methods of reproduction fascinate us. Jeffrey hesitated, weighing his options. His ship was beyond repair, and he had no way to contact Earth. Cooperating with these plant people might be his only chance for survival and eventual rescue. All right, he agreed. I'll go with you. As they traveled towards the hive city, Jeffrey noticed other Illyrians emerging from the foliage to observe him. Their expressions ranged from wonder to wariness, leaves and vines shifting in response to his presence. The hive city itself was a marvel of organic architecture. Massive structures grew from the ground, intertwining and pulsing with life. Jeffrey was led to a central chamber where the Council of Elders awaited. These ancient Illyrians resembled gnarled trees, their bark-like skin etched with the passage of time. A heated debate erupted among the elders. Some argued for dissecting Jeffrey to gain knowledge, while others advocated for keeping him alive for observation. Deneb intervened, passionately defending the value of interspecies exchange. Finally, the eldest of the council spoke. The human will be preserved, but he must submit to examinations and answer all questions about his species' reproduction. Jeffrey nodded, realizing the precariousness of his situation. He would need to carefully navigate the Illyrians' curiosity while secretly searching for a way to repair his ship and contact Earth. As night fell, Deneb led Jeffrey to a specially prepared chamber within the hive city. Rest now, she instructed. Tomorrow we begin our study of human breeding. Jeffrey settled onto the soft living bed, his mind racing. He was a stranger in a world where plant girls were fascinated by human reproduction. How would he satisfy their curiosity without compromising himself or humanity? As exhaustion overtook him, Jeffrey realized his survival, and perhaps the future of human-Illyrian relations, depended on his next moves. Jeffrey's eyes fluttered open as soft, bioluminescent light filtered through the organic walls of his chamber. The events of the previous day rushed back to him, and he sat up, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The living bed beneath him pulsed gently, responding to his movement. Human, Deneb's telepathic voice resonated in his mind. It is time to begin our study. Jeffrey turned to see the Illyrian standing in the doorway, her leaf-like hair swaying with an unseen breeze. He nodded, steeling himself for what was to come. Over the next several days, Jeffrey found himself at the center of an intense scientific inquiry. The Illyrian's examination room was a marvel of biotechnology, with vines and tendrils forming intricate scanning devices and analytical tools. As Deneb and her team worked, Jeffrey couldn't help but be impressed by their non-invasive techniques. Your circulatory system is fascinating, Deneb communicated as she studied a holographic projection of Jeffrey's internal organs. How does your heart pump nutrients without photosynthesis? Jeffrey explained the basics of the human cardiovascular system, watching as Deneb's eyes widened with each new piece of information. He found himself growing more comfortable with their exchanges, his scientific curiosity overriding his initial apprehension. During a break in the examinations, Jeffrey seized the opportunity to learn more about his hosts. Deneb, you mentioned pollination earlier. How exactly do Illyrians reproduce? Deneb's leaves rustled, a gesture Jeffrey had come to recognize as excitement. We have 3 genders: pollinators, receptors, and nurturers. Pollinators produce and distribute genetic material. Receptors receive and combine it, and nurturers cultivate the resulting offspring. This revelation sparked a lively discussion about biodiversity and evolutionary biology. Jeffrey found himself drawing parallels between Illyrian reproduction and certain earth plants, while Deneb peppered him with questions about human mating rituals. So humans engage in physical contact to reproduce? Deneb asked, her telepathic voice tinged with curiosity. Jeffrey felt heat rise to his cheeks. Yes, we do. It's a complex process involving hormones, emotions, and physical compatibility. As the days passed, Jeffrey noticed a shift in the atmosphere of the hive city. Word of his presence had spread, and he often caught glimpses of younger Illyrians peering at him from behind fronds and vines. Their curiosity was palpable, and Jeffrey found himself at the center of growing attention. One evening, as Deneb escorted him back to his chamber, they encountered a group of young Illyrians. The plant-like beings approached cautiously, their leaves quivering with excitement. Is it true you come from beyond the stars? One asked, its telepathic voice filled with wonder. Jeffrey smiled, kneeling down to their level. Yes, I come from a planet called Earth. It's very different from your world, but beautiful in its own way. The young Illyrians bombarded him with questions about human culture, technology, and biology. Jeffrey answered as best he could, aware of Deneb watching the interaction with intense interest. As they continued their walk, Deneb's telepathic voice took on a thoughtful tone. Your presence is causing quite a stir among our people, Jeffrey. Some see great potential in this cultural exchange, while others fear the impact on our society. Jeffrey nodded, understanding the weight of his situation. I hope I can prove that our differences can lead to mutual growth and understanding. The next day, Jeffrey was surprised to find himself in the presence of Lysera, a nurturer elder known for her progressive views. Her ancient, tree-like form towered over him, but her telepathic voice was gentle. Human, your arrival has sparked great debate among our council, Lysera communicated. Elder Zyrex and his faction fear the influence of your mammalian concepts on our carefully balanced ecosystem, but I see potential for growth and discovery. Jeffrey chose his words carefully. I assure you, Elder Lysera, my intention is not to disrupt your society. I believe our species can learn much from each other while respecting our differences. As Lysera nodded thoughtfully, Jeffrey caught sight of Deneb watching from across the room. Her gaze lingered on him, and he felt a strange flutter in his chest. He realized that their relationship had evolved beyond mere scientific curiosity. There was a growing connection between them, one that both excited and terrified him. Later that evening, as Jeffrey sat in his chamber, pondering the complexities of his situation, Deneb entered. She seemed agitated, her leaves rustling more than usual. Jeffrey, she began, her telepathic voice tinged with concern. The council has called a meeting, They wish to see you tomorrow night to discuss your future here on Illyria. Jeffrey's heart raced. He knew this moment would come, but he hadn't expected it so soon. As he prepared himself for what promised to be a pivotal encounter, he couldn't help but wonder about the potential consequences, not just for himself, but for the future of human-Illyrian relations. As night fell over the Hive City, Jeffrey stood at the threshold of his chamber, gazing out at the bioluminescent landscape. Tomorrow would bring challenges and opportunities he could scarcely imagine. With a deep breath, he stepped back inside, ready to face whatever the alien world had in store for him. As the first light of dawn filtered through the organic walls of Jeffrey's chamber, he found himself unable to shake the nervous anticipation that had settled in his gut. The council meeting loomed ahead, its outcome potentially determining his fate on this alien world. He had just finished dressing when Deneb entered, her leaves rustling with an unusual intensity. "Jeffrey," she began, her telepathic voice tinged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I have been considering our situation, and I believe I have a solution that will demonstrate the value of human knowledge to the council." Jeffrey raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What did you have in mind?" Deneb's leaves quivered as she continued. "I propose that we provide a first-hand demonstration of human mating practices. It would offer irrefutable evidence of their scientific value." The suggestion hit Jeffrey like a bolt of lightning. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find the right words. "Deneb, that's a bold proposition. Are you sure about this?" She nodded, her grit evident in the set of her bark-like shoulders. "I believe it is necessary. The council needs to see the unique aspects of human reproduction to truly understand its significance." Jeffrey ran a hand through his hair, weighing the potential diplomatic benefits against the personal implications. After a moment of internal debate, he nodded slowly. "All right, if you think it's our best option, I'll agree to it." As they made their way to the council chamber, Jeffrey couldn't help but notice the increased activity in the Hive City. Word of his appearance before the council had clearly spread, and curious Illyrians lined the organic corridors, their leaves rustling with excitement as he passed. The council chamber itself was a vast, cathedral-like space, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins. The elders were already assembled, their ancient forms towering over Jeffrey as he and Deneb entered. Elder Lysara's voice echoed in Jeffrey's mind, warm and welcoming. "Human, we have gathered to discuss your future here on Illyria. Please share your thoughts with us." Jeffrey stepped forward, his voice steady despite his nerves. "Honorable elders, I come before you with respect and gratitude for your hospitality. I believe that the exchange of knowledge between our species can lead to mutual growth and understanding." Before he could continue, Deneb interjected, her telepathic voice ringing clearly through the chamber. "Esteemed council, I have a proposal that will demonstrate the unique value of human biology." The chamber fell silent as Deneb outlined her suggestion for a mating demonstration. Jeffrey watched as expressions of shock, curiosity, and outrage rippled through the assembled elders. Elder Zyrex, his bark-like face contorted in disgust, was the first to break the silence. "This is an outrage. We cannot allow such a barbaric display to contaminate our society." Lysara, however, leaned forward with interest. "I disagree, Zyrex. This could be an unprecedented opportunity for scientific advancement. We have never before had the chance to observe mammalian reproduction up close." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Jeffrey stood silently, acutely aware of the weight of this moment. After what seemed like hours, the eldest of the elders raised a gnarled hand, silencing the room. "We have reached a decision," the ancient being intoned. "The demonstration will proceed tomorrow in a specially prepared research chamber. This event will be open to select observers for its scientific merit." As they left the council chamber, Jeffrey could feel the buzz of excitement spreading through the Hive City. Young Illyrians whispered among themselves, their leaves quivering with anticipation at the prospect of witnessing something entirely new. That evening, Jeffrey and Deneb found themselves in a quiet corner of the biological gardens, away from the growing frenzy of the Hive City. The bioluminescent flora cast a soft glow over them as they sat side by side, contemplating the day ahead. "Deneb," Jeffrey began, his voice soft, I have to ask, why did you suggest this demonstration? It's not exactly a common practice among humans to perform like this. Deneb's leaves rustled gently as she turned to face him. I believe it is necessary for true understanding between our species. But more than that, she paused, her telepathic voice taking on a tone Jeffrey had never heard before. I find myself curious about you, about human intimacy. Jeffrey felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling that both thrilled and terrified him. I've been curious about you too, Deneb. Your intelligence, your unique beauty, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. As they talked into the night, discussing the intricacies of human relationships and the emotional aspects of mating, Jeffrey felt the line between scientific curiosity and genuine attraction begin to blur. He found himself drawn to Deneb in a way he had never expected, and he could sense a similar shift in her. Unknown to them, their intimate conversation was being observed from afar. Elder Zyrex, hidden behind a cluster of bioluminescent fronds, watched with growing anger. As soon as Jeffrey and Deneb parted ways, Zyrex retreated to a secluded area where a group of like-minded Illyrians awaited. This human influence has gone too far, Zyrex communicated, his telepathic voice seething with hardly restrained rage. We must act to protect our society from this corruption. A young pollinator named Thrix stepped forward, his leaves trembling with eagerness to please. What would you have me do, Elder? Zyrex's eyes narrowed. Infiltrate the research team, sabotage their equipment. We must discredit the human and force his expulsion from Illyria. As Thrix nodded and slipped away into the night, the conservative Illyrians dispersed, their plan set in motion. The next morning, Jeffrey awoke to find his chamber defaced with plant-based graffiti. Crude symbols and alien script covered the walls, their meaning clear even without translation. The human was not welcome. As he was escorted to the research chamber, Jeffrey noticed the increased security presence. Illyrian guards lined the corridors, their vine-like appendages coiled tightly, ready to respond to any disturbance. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Entering the research chamber, Jeffrey was struck by the bizarre sight before him. The Illyrians had attempted to recreate a human bedroom, resulting in a strange fusion of alien plant life and crude imitations of human furniture. A bed-like structure made of interwoven vines dominated the center of the room, surrounded by pulsating organic walls that seemed to double as recording devices. The chamber was filled with observing Illyrians. The entire Council of Elders sat in an elevated section, their ancient forms looming over the proceedings. Prominent scientists bustled about, making last-minute adjustments to their equipment. A group of young Illyrians, clearly chosen for their academic excellence, watched with wide-eyed fascination from a designated area. As Jeffrey's eyes scanned the room, he spotted Thrix among the research team, the young pollinator's leaves twitching nervously as he fiddled with a piece of equipment. Something about Thrix's behavior set off alarm bells in Jeffrey's mind, but before he could dwell on it, Deneb entered the chamber. Their eyes met, and for a moment the chaotic energy of the room faded away. Deneb's leaves rustled softly, a gesture Jeffrey had come to recognize as a smile. As they moved towards the center of the chamber, preparing to begin the demonstration, Jeffrey felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Unknown to everyone, Thrix chose that moment to activate the hidden device he had planted earlier. As the demonstration was about to begin, the sabotage plan was set in motion, threatening to undermine the entire event and potentially jeopardize Jeffrey's safety on Illyria. As Jeffrey and Deneb took their positions in the center of the research chamber, an air of nervous anticipation filled the room. The assembled Illyrians leaned forward, their leaves quivering with excitement. Jeffrey took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. Just as they were about to begin, a sudden wave of discomfort swept through the chamber. Illyrians began to shift uneasily, their leaves rustling with agitation. Jeffrey noticed several observers shaking their head-like appendages, as if trying to clear an unseen fog. Something's wrong, Deneb communicated telepathically, her own leaves trembling slightly. Jeffrey nodded, his eyes scanning the room. He caught sight of Thrix, the young pollinator, hurriedly adjusting a small device near the chamber's organic walls. Suspicion flared in Jeffrey's mind, but before he could act, Elder Lysera's voice echoed through the chamber. "Proceed with the demonstration," she instructed, her tone firm despite the growing unease among the observers. With a shared glance of purpose, Jeffrey and Deneb began. As they engaged in the intimate act, Jeffrey became acutely aware of the alien environment surrounding them. The pulsating walls seemed to throb in time with their movements, and the air filled with a sweet, unfamiliar scent. Suddenly, Jeffrey noticed a change in Deneb. Her plant-like skin began to shift, taking on a soft, bioluminescent glow. The transformation started at her core and spread outward, creating intricate patterns that pulsed with their shared rhythm. "Fascinating!" Elder Lysera's telepathic voice rang out, tinged with excitement. "We've never observed such a reaction in our species." The Illyrian scientists scrambled to record the phenomenon, their leaves rustling frantically as they adjusted their equipment. Jeffrey, momentarily distracted by Deneb's unexpected transformation, refocused on their task. As the demonstration continued, the interference in the chamber intensified. Young Illyrians in the audience began to wilt visibly, their leaf-like appendages drooping. Concerned murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elder Xyrex's voice cut through the growing chaos. "This must stop immediately. The human is causing harm to our youth." Jeffrey, his mind racing, scanned the room once more. His eyes locked onto Thrix, who was now attempting to conceal the device he had been adjusting earlier. In a flash of insight, Jeffrey recognized the telltale signs of a botanical disruptor, a piece of equipment he had encountered in his previous research. "The device!" Jeffrey called out, pointing towards Thrix. "It's interfering with your sensory perception." The chamber erupted into commotion. Illyrian security personnel converged on Thrix, their vine-like appendages wrapping around the young pollinator. As Thrix was restrained, one of the guards deactivated the hidden device. Almost immediately, the atmosphere in the chamber changed. The wilting Illyrians began to perk up, their leaves regaining their usual vibrant hue. The fog of confusion lifted, replaced by a buzz of excitement as the observers refocused on Jeffrey and Deneb. With the interference removed, the demonstration concluded successfully. The Illyrian scientists, their initial shock wearing off, now watched with rapt attention, furiously recording data on the efficiency and versatility of mammalian reproduction. As Jeffrey and Deneb separated, Elder Lysera approached, her ancient form towering over them. "This is truly remarkable," she communicated. "The potential applications for our own reproductive methods are staggering." Before Jeffrey could respond, a commotion near the chamber's entrance drew everyone's attention. Elder Xyrex was being escorted out by security personnel, his protest fading as he was led away. "Evidence of Xyrex's involvement in the sabotage attempt has been uncovered," Lysera explained, her telepathic voice tinged with disappointment. "The council will convene immediately to address this breach of trust." As the chamber began to clear, Jeffrey noticed Deneb swaying slightly, her bioluminescent glow still pulsing faintly. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. I'm not sure," Deneb replied, her telepathic voice weak. "I feel different." A team of Illyrian medical experts quickly surrounded Deneb, their leaves gently probing her altered physiology. Jeffrey watched anxiously as they conducted their examination, his mind racing with possibilities. "We need to conduct more thorough tests," one of the medical experts communicated. "This reaction to human genetic material is unprecedented." As Deneb was led away for further examination, Jeffrey found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Illyrian scientists peppered him with questions about human biology, while others expressed their gratitude for his role in uncovering the sabotage. Amidst the chaos, Elder Lysera approached Jeffrey once more. "Your actions today have earned you great respect among our people," she communicated. "We would like you to help us draft a proposal for a formal cultural exchange program with Earth." Jeffrey's eyes widened at the implications of this request. I'd be honored," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. As he left the research chamber, Jeffrey's mind was a tumult of conflicting thoughts and emotions. The potential for groundbreaking scientific discoveries on Illyria excited him, But he couldn't shake his concern for Deneb's well-being. And beneath it all, a nagging question persisted. What would this mean for his chances of returning to Earth? Outside the chamber, Jeffrey overheard excited chatter among a group of young Illyrians. They spoke in hushed telepathic tones about the mammalian awakening, their leaves quivering with enthusiasm as they discussed the implications of what they had witnessed. As Jeffrey made his way through the hive city, he noticed a subtle shift in how the Illyrians regarded him. Where once there had been suspicion and unease, he now saw curiosity and respect in their gazes. Reaching his quarters, Jeffrey sat down to begin work on the cultural exchange proposal. As he started to outline his ideas, he became acutely aware of the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His actions and decisions would shape the future of human-Illyrian relations for generations to come. Unknown to Jeffrey, in a secluded corner of the hive city, a group of conservative Illyrians was gathering. Their leaves rustled with discontent as they discussed the day's events in hushed telepathic whispers. Among them, a senior pollinator named Virex, a staunch supporter of the disgraced Elder Zyrex, addressed the group. "We cannot allow this human influence to corrupt our society," Virex communicated, his telepathic voice filled with tenacity. "We must find a way to prevent this so-called exchange program from coming to fruition." As the clandestine meeting continued, plans were set in motion that would soon challenge Jeffrey's mission on Illyria in ways he could not yet imagine. As Jeffrey continued his work on the cultural exchange proposal, he couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to unfold. The air in the hive city crackled with an electric energy, a palpable sense of change that permeated every organic wall and pulsing corridor. Days turned into weeks, and Jeffrey found himself at the center of a rapidly evolving Illyrian society. The mammalian awakening, as it came to be known, swept through the planet like a tidal wave of curiosity and innovation. Illyrians of all ages sought out Jeffrey, eager to learn more about human biology, culture, and technology. Elder Lysera, now leading the council with a progressive vision, implemented sweeping reforms. Jeffrey watched in amazement as traditional Illyrian structures were adapted to accommodate new ideas and methodologies inspired by human practices. One morning, as Jeffrey made his way to the research chamber, he was intercepted by an agitated Illyrian scientist. "You must come quickly," the scientist communicated telepathically. "It's Deneb. Something unexpected has occurred." Jeffrey's heart raced as he followed the scientist to a sealed chamber. Inside, he found Deneb surrounded by a team of Illyrian researchers. Her appearance had changed dramatically since their intimate encounter. Her plant-like skin now pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent glow, and intricate patterns danced across her surface. "Jeffrey," Deneb's telepathic voice was weak but filled with wonder. "My body, it's changing. I can feel it adapting, evolving." The lead researcher approached Jeffrey, leaves quivering with excitement. "We've discovered that Deneb's DNA has begun incorporating elements of human genetic material. The results are astounding. Enhanced regenerative abilities, increased resistance to environmental stressors. It's unlike anything we've ever seen." As news of Deneb's transformation spread, a surge of young Illyrians volunteered for controlled human-Illyrian genetic mixing experiments. Jeffrey, recognizing the potential dangers of unregulated experimentation, knew he had to act. In a meeting with the Council of Elders, Jeffrey proposed the establishment of an ethics committee. "We need to ensure that all research involving human-Illyrian interactions is conducted responsibly and safely," he argued. Elder Lysera nodded in agreement. "Your wisdom is appreciated, Jeffrey. We shall create an interspecies ethics board, and we would like you to serve as a key advisor." As Jeffrey immersed himself in his new role, he continued to work on repairing his ship. With access to Illyrian plant-based technology, he made significant progress. One evening, after days of tireless effort, Jeffrey successfully adapted organic compounds to create a makeshift communication device. His hands trembled as he activated the jury-rigged system. Taking a deep breath, Jeffrey transmitted a narrow-band distress signal towards Earth. As the signal pulsed outward, he hoped it would be strong enough to reach human long-range sensors. Unbeknownst to Jeffrey, His signal was about to set in motion a chain of events that would alter the course of human-Illyrian relations forever. Light years away, Dr. Alara Voss sat in the dimly lit cockpit of her research vessel, poring over data from her latest deep space observations. A sudden beep from her console startled her from her work. Her eyes widened as she read the incoming transmission. "Impossible," she whispered, her fingers flying over the controls to verify the signal's origin. "A human distress call? From an uncharted system?" Dr. Voss's mind raced with the implications. She knew that if she reported this to Earth's Central Command, bureaucratic red tape would delay any meaningful action for months, if not years. Making a split-second decision, she altered her ship's course to investigate, keeping the information to herself. Back on Illyria, the Hive City's usual rhythmic pulse was interrupted by sporadic disruptions. Food production facilities experienced unexplained failures, and energy distribution networks flickered unpredictably. Jeffrey noticed the growing unrest among the Illyrian population as resources became strained. Elder Lysara summoned Jeffrey to an emergency council meeting. "We believe these disruptions are acts of sabotage," she communicated, her leaves drooping with concern. "The conservative faction loyal to Zyrex has become more bold in their opposition to change." Jeffrey's mind flashed to Thrix, the young pollinator who had attempted to sabotage the research demonstration. "Has there been any sign of Thrix?" he asked. A ripple of unease passed through the council. "Thrix escaped custody," one of the elders admitted. "We believe he may be leading this rebel faction." Elder Lysara turned to Jeffrey. "We need your help to develop new security measures. Your knowledge of Earth's history and technology may provide insights we lack." Jeffrey nodded, his mind already formulating ideas. "On Earth, we have centralized law enforcement agencies to handle situations like this. Perhaps a similar system could work here on Illyria." The concept was met with a mix of enthusiasm and skepticism from the council. It challenged the traditional Illyrian system of community-based conflict resolution, but the growing threat demanded new solutions. As Jeffrey worked with the council to implement these new security measures, he received an urgent summons from the medical chamber. Racing through the pulsating corridors, he arrived to find a group of agitated Illyrian scientists gathered around a large glowing pod. "It's Deneb," one of the scientists explained. "Her evolution has reached a critical point. She's entered some kind of cocoon state." Jeffrey approached the pod, placing a hand on its warm, pulsating surface. Inside, he could make out Deneb's silhouette, curled in a fetal position and surrounded by a swirling mass of bioluminescent energy. Drawing on his botanical expertise, Jeffrey studied the pod's structure. "This looks like a form of metamorphosis," he theorized. "It's possible she's evolving into a hybrid life form with both plant and mammalian characteristics." The news of Deneb's transformation spread quickly through the Hive City, fueling both excitement and fear. Jeffrey could sense the deepening rift between those who embraced change and those who clung to tradition. As tensions mounted, Jeffrey's makeshift communication device crackled to life. An encrypted message scrolled across the screen, causing his heart to race. "Jeffrey, this is Dr. Alara Voss. I've intercepted your distress signal and am en route to Illyria. ETA 48 hours. Be advised, Earth government is aware of the situation. Military expedition being prepared to secure the planet. We must act quickly to prevent conflict. Stand by for further instructions." Jeffrey's mind reeled with the implications. He knew he had to prepare the Illyrian leadership for the challenges ahead. As he made his way to inform Elder Lysara, a series of explosions rocked the Hive City, sending shockwaves through the organic structure. Alarms blared as Illyrians rushed to respond to the attack. Jeffrey pushed through the chaos, knowing that the next few hours would be critical. The delicate balance between humans and Illyrians hung by a thread, and it was up to him to ensure it didn't snap. Snap. The explosions rocked the Hive City, sending vibrations through the organic walls and floors. Jeffrey stumbled, catching himself against a pulsating corridor. His mind raced as he processed the implications of Dr. Voss's message and the sudden attack. Without hesitation, Jeffrey sprinted towards the council chamber, dodging panicked Illyrians along the way. He burst through the entrance to find Elder Lysara and the other council members in a state of alarm. "We're under attack," Jeffrey shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "It's likely Thrix and his rebels. We need to act fast." Elder Lysera's leaves quivered with concern. "What do you propose, Jeffrey?" Drawing on his knowledge of Earth tactics, Jeffrey quickly outlined a plan. "We need to secure key locations, the communication hub, power distribution centers. I'll organize a response team with your security forces." Lysera nodded, her telepathic voice firm. "Do it. I'll coordinate our defenses from here." Jeffrey wasted no time. He gathered a group of loyal Illyrians and members of the newly formed security force. As they moved through the Hive City, Jeffrey directed them to strategic positions, setting up defensive perimeters around critical infrastructure. "Protect the power nodes," he ordered a team of Illyrian guards, their plant-like appendages gripping organic weapons. "If we lose power, we lose everything." As Jeffrey coordinated the defense efforts, his makeshift communicator buzzed. Dr. Alara Voss's voice crackled through, filled with tension. "Jeffrey, I've entered Illyrian atmosphere. The turbulence is intense. These explosions are making landing difficult." "Find a clearing near the Hive City," Jeffrey responded, ducking as another explosion shook the structure. "I'll send an escort team to bring you in safely." No sooner had Jeffrey dispatched the escort than he received an urgent message from Elder Lysera. "Jeffrey, we're moving Deneb's cocoon to a secure underground chamber. Her transformation is critical to our future." Jeffrey's heart raced at the news. He knew Deneb's metamorphosis could be the key to bridging the gap between humans and Illyrians. "Understood. I'll ensure you have a clear path." As Jeffrey directed his forces to create a safe corridor for Deneb's transport, he caught sight of a group of rebels attempting to sabotage a power distribution node. He led a small team to intercept them, engaging in a tense skirmish. The rebels wielded plant-based weapons that fired sharp, organic projectiles. Jeffrey and his team took cover behind pulsating growths in the corridor, returning fire with their own Illyrian weapons. "Aim for their root systems," Jeffrey shouted, recalling the Illyrian physiology he had studied. His team adjusted their aim, targeting the lower portions of the rebels' bodies. Several attackers fell, their leaves withering as their root systems were damaged. As the skirmish died down, Jeffrey received word that Dr. Voss had landed safely and was being escorted into the Hive City. He rushed to meet her, knowing her expertise could be crucial in resolving the crisis. Dr. Voss arrived, her eyes wide as she took in the chaos of the Hive City. "Jeffrey, what's the situation?" Quickly, Jeffrey briefed her on the rebel attack and the ongoing defense efforts. "We need to stabilize the situation before Earth's military arrives. Any ideas?" Dr. Voss nodded, her expression determined. "I brought advanced communication equipment. We can contact Earth's government directly, buy some time to perseverance this internally." As they worked to set up the equipment, another tremor shook the Hive City. This one felt different, more localized and intense. "That's not an explosion," Jeffrey realized, his eyes widening. "It's coming from Deneb's chamber." They raced towards the underground facility where Deneb's cocoon had been moved. Upon arrival, they found Elder Lysera and a team of scientists staring in awe at the pulsating cocoon, which was now emitting an otherworldly light. "It's opening," Lysera communicated telepathically, her leaves quivering with excitement and trepidation. The cocoon split open with a soft, organic sound. From within emerged a figure that was neither fully Illyrian nor human, but a breathtaking fusion of both. Deneb's new form retained the plant-like qualities of her Illyrian heritage, but now incorporated unmistakably human characteristics. Her skin glowed with bioluminescence, patterns shifting across her surface like living art. Her eyes, once simple, light-sensitive organs, now possessed depth and complexity reminiscent of human eyes. She moved with a fluidity that combined the grace of Illyrian motion with the strength and dexterity of human musculature. "Jeffrey," Deneb spoke, her voice a harmonious blend of verbal and telepathic communication. "I can sense the conflict. Let me help." Jeffrey and Dr. Voss exchanged glances, recognizing the potential game-changing nature of Deneb's transformation. "We need to locate Thrix and his core group," Jeffrey explained. "Can you use your telepathic abilities to find them?" Deneb nodded, closing her eyes in concentration. The patterns on her skin pulsed rapidly, as she extended her mental reach throughout the hive city. After a moment, her eyes snapped open. "The genetic research facility," she announced. "Thrix and his loyalists are there, attempting to destroy the human-Illyrian interaction data." With this crucial information, Jeffrey quickly formulated a plan. "Dr. Voss, continue working on establishing communication with Earth. Elder Lysera, coordinate with the Council to prepare for diplomatic negotiations. Deneb, you're with me. We're going to end this rebellion." As they moved to put the plan into action, Jeffrey couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The fate of human-Illyrian relations hung in the balance, and the next few hours would determine the course of interstellar history. Jeffrey, Deneb, and a team of Illyrian security forces made their way through the chaotic hive city towards the genetic research facility. The sounds of conflict echoed through the organic corridors, a stark reminder of the high stakes they faced. As they approached the facility, Jeffrey turned to Deneb. "Can you sense anything more about Thrix's plans or state of mind?" Deneb's brow furrowed in concentration, her new hybrid physiology allowing her to process complex thoughts with remarkable speed. "He's desperate," she communicated, her voice a blend of spoken word and telepathic impression. "Thrix believes destroying the research is the only way to undo the changes brought by your arrival." Jeffrey nodded grimly. "Then we need to approach this carefully. If we corner him, he might do something drastic." They reached the entrance to the genetic research facility, finding signs of forced entry. Jeffrey signaled the team to move in cautiously, with Deneb at his side. As they entered the main laboratory, they found Thrix and a group of his followers frantically attempting to erase data from the facility's organic computers. "Thrix!" Jeffrey called out, his voice firm but non-threatening. "Stop this. We can talk about your concerns without resorting to destruction." Thrix whirled around, his leaves dripping with agitation. "Talk," he communicated telepathically, his mental voice filled with bitterness. "You've already done too much talking, human. Your words have poisoned our society, corrupted our very essence." Deneb stepped forward, her hybrid form causing Thrix and his followers to recoil in a mixture of awe and revulsion. "Look at me, Thrix," she said, her dual-natured voice resonating through the chamber. "I am living proof that change doesn't mean destruction. It can lead to growth, to new possibilities we never imagined." Thrix hesitated, his mental state a turmoil of conflicting emotions that Deneb could sense clearly. Jeffrey seized the moment to press their advantage. "We're not here to fight you, Thrix," Jeffrey said, taking a cautious step forward. "We want to understand your concerns and find a way forward that respects Illyrian traditions while embracing new opportunities." As the tense standoff continued, Jeffrey's communicator buzzed. Dr. Voss's voice came through, tinged with urgency. "Jeffrey, I've made contact with Earth's government. They're willing to delay the military expedition, but they're demanding immediate assurances of Illyrian cooperation. We need to purpose this quickly." Jeffrey's mind raced, knowing that the next few moments could determine the fate of human-Illyrian relations. He looked at Thrix, seeing not just a rebel, but a being afraid of losing everything he knew and valued. "Thrix," Jeffrey said, his voice calm and steady, "Earth is aware of our situation. They're willing to give us a chance to sort this out peacefully, but we need to show them that Illyrians can come together, even in times of disagreement. Help us do that. Let's find a way to preserve your traditions while embracing a new future, together." As Thrix wavered, torn between his convictions and the reality of the situation, Deneb reached out both physically and telepathically. Her unique abilities allowed her to project a sense of unity, of the potential for harmony between the old and the new. The laboratory fell silent, the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance as Thrix considered his next move. Thrix's leaves quivered as he processed Jeffrey's words and Deneb's telepathic projection. The laboratory hung in tense silence, the fate of two worlds balanced on a knife's edge. "A chance to preserve our traditions?" Thrix's mental voice wavered, a mix of hope and suspicion. "How can we trust that our ways won't be eroded by human influence?" Jeffrey stepped forward, his hands open in a gesture of peace. "What if we establish a committee, a group of both conservative and progressive Illyrians to review and regulate all future genetic experiments. Your voice, your concerns, they'll be heard and respected. Deneb, her hybrid form glowing softly, added, "It's an opportunity to shape Illyria's future, Thrix, to ensure our growth doesn't come at the cost of our essence." Thrix's followers exchanged uncertain glances. The rebel leader's leaves drooped slightly as the fight drained from him. A committee with real power to regulate? Absolutely, Jeffrey affirmed. Equal representation, transparent processes. We're not here to dictate Thrix. We want to collaborate. After a moment that felt like an eternity, Thrix lowered his organic weapon. Very well, we will cease our attack, but we expect this committee to be formed immediately. Jeffrey nodded, relief washing over him. Thank you, Thrix. We'll begin the process right away. As the immediate crisis subsided, the Hive City buzzed with activity. Repair crews worked tirelessly to mend the damage from the attacks, while Illyrians from all factions engaged in heated discussions about their future. In the council chamber, Elder Lysara, Jeffrey, and Dr. Voss huddled around a pulsating organic console. "We need to prepare a comprehensive report for Earth's diplomatic mission," Lysara communicated telepathically. "They must understand our society, our culture, and the recent events." Dr. Voss nodded, her fingers flying over a makeshift human-Illyrian interface. "We'll emphasize the potential for scientific exchange, but we must also stress the importance of Illyrian sovereignty." As they worked, news of Deneb's transformation spread through the Hive City like wildfire. Illyrians gathered in communal spaces, their leaves rustling with excitement and apprehension as they discussed the implications. In a secure laboratory, Deneb underwent a series of tests. Illyrian and human scientists worked side by side, marveling at her unique physiology. "Incredible," an Illyrian scientist communicated, his leaves twitching with excitement. "Her plant-based biology has been enhanced with systems analogous to mammalian nervous and circulatory structures." Dr. Voss leaned in, examining a holographic display of Deneb's internal structure. "This could revolutionize medicine for both our species. Imagine treatments that combine the regenerative properties of plants with the complexity of human biology." As word of these discoveries spread, a new wave of volunteers came forward, eager to participate in controlled human-Illyrian genetic mixing experiments. Jeffrey and Elder Lysara found themselves working around the clock to establish strict protocols and ethical guidelines. Every participant must be fully informed of the risks and potential benefits, Jeffrey insisted, addressing a group of Illyrian administrators. "We can't rush this process no matter how excited people are." Meanwhile, in a repurposed hangar, Dr. Voss oversaw modifications to Jeffrey's damaged ship. Illyrian technicians carefully integrated plant-based technology into the vessel's systems. "How's it looking?" Jeffrey asked, entering the hangar. Dr. Voss grinned, patting the ship's hull. "It's a work of art, faster, more efficient, and capable of interfacing directly with Illyrian navigation systems, a true symbol of what we can achieve together." As the day of the Earth diplomatic mission's arrival drew near, Jeffrey found himself torn. He stood at a viewport, gazing at the alien sky, his reflection overlaid on the strange constellations. Deneb approached, her hybrid form casting a soft glow. "You're troubled," she observed, both verbally and telepathically. Jeffrey sighed. "I came here wanting to return to Earth. But now, there's so much potential here, so much we could accomplish. And you..." He trailed off, unable to articulate the depth of his feelings. Deneb placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch a unique blend of plant and human warmth. "Your presence here is invaluable, Jeffrey. But whatever you decide, know that you've already changed both our worlds for the better." Their moment was interrupted by an urgent communication from Elder Lysara. "Jeffrey, Deneb, you're needed immediately. There's been a discovery." They rushed to the outskirts of the Hive City, where a team of Illyrian explorers had cordoned off an area. In the center of the commotion sat an object that defied easy description, part stone, part metal, covered in intricate markings. "By the stars," Jeffrey breathed, kneeling to examine the artifact. "These symbols, some of them look like ancient human writing." An Illyrian archaeologist nodded, her leaves quivering with excitement. And others resemble early Illyrian script. We've never seen anything like it. As news of the discovery spread, the hive city erupted in speculation. Conservative Illyrians saw it as a warning against intermingling, while progressives viewed it as proof of a shared history. Recognizing the powder keg they were sitting on, Jeffrey addressed the gathered crowd. This discovery raises many questions. I propose a joint human-Illyrian research initiative to study the artifact. Together, we can uncover its true significance. Elder Lysera and Dr. Voss quickly voiced their support, seeing an opportunity to showcase cooperation to the arriving Earth diplomats. As the diplomatic ship entered Illyrian atmosphere, Jeffrey led a diverse team to the artifact site. Deneb walked beside him, her hybrid senses alert for any anomalies. All right, Jeffrey said, activating an array of scanning equipment. Let's see what secrets you're hiding. As they began their analysis, the artifact pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Deneb gasped, her eyes widening as the energy interfaced with her unique biology. Deneb? Jeffrey reached for her, concern etched on his face. I'm seeing something, she whispered, her voice layered with telepathic impressions. A vision of Earth and Illyria, connected long ago. There's so much. The team watched in awe as Deneb processed the flood of information. In orbit above, the Earth diplomatic ship began its final approach, unaware of the ancient mystery unfolding on the planet's surface. Jeffrey looked from Deneb to the approaching ship, then back to the artifact. He realized that the next few hours would reshape the future of both human and Illyrian civilization in ways no one could have predicted. The artifact pulsed again, its energy interacting with Deneb's hybrid physiology in ways they couldn't have imagined. We need to get this back to the hive city, Jeffrey said urgently, his eyes darting between Deneb and the approaching diplomatic ship. Dr. Voss, can you help me secure it? As they carefully lifted the object, Deneb's eyes widened. The visions, they're intensifying, she gasped, her voice a blend of wonder and strain. They rushed back to the hive city, the artifact cradled between them. Deneb's steps faltered as she processed the flood of information pouring into her mind. Jeffrey supported her, his face etched with concern. What are you seeing? He asked as they hurried along. Deneb's voice came in broken fragments, both spoken and telepathic. Earth, Illyria, connected. Long ago, we were the same. As they approached the central chamber, they could hear the buzz of anticipation. The Earth diplomatic ship had landed, and tensions were high. Illyrian elders stood in a semicircle, their leaves quivering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Across from them, a group of human diplomats shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure of the protocol for this unprecedented meeting. Jeffrey burst into the room, Deneb at his side and Dr. Voss following close behind with the artifact. All eyes turned to them, conversations halting mid-sentence. Forgive our abrupt entrance, Jeffrey said, his voice carrying across the chamber. But we've made a discovery that changes everything. He quickly explained their findings, gesturing to the pulsing artifact. As he spoke, Deneb stepped forward, her hybrid form drawing gasps from both humans and Illyrians alike. The artifact is a data storage device, she said, her dual-natured voice resonating through the chamber. Left behind by an ancient civilization, our common ancestors. A ripple of shock passed through the assembly. Elder Lysera's leaves curled in disbelief. Common ancestors? How is this possible? Deneb closed her eyes, channeling the visions flooding her mind. As she spoke, holographic images began to form in the air around her, projected by the artifact's energy interfacing with her unique biology. Millennia ago, an advanced spacefaring species seeded both Earth and Illyria, she explained, her voice taking on an otherworldly quality. The holograms showed sleek ships descending on primordial versions of both planets. They modified their own genetics to adapt to each world's environment. The images shifted, showing the gradual evolution of the seeded species. On Earth, they developed into recognizably human forms. On Illyria, they took on increasingly plant-like characteristics. Over time, we diverged, Deneb continued, but at our core, we remain the same species. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices and telepathic impressions. Human diplomats huddled together, whispering furiously. Illyrian elders communicated in rapid-fire telepathic bursts. Jeffrey stepped forward, raising his hands for silence. "I know this is a lot to process," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But this discovery presents us with an unprecedented opportunity." He turned to face both delegations. "I propose we establish a joint Human-Illyrian Research Institute. Together, we can study this artifact, explore our shared history, and unlock the potential of combining our unique biological traits." Dr. Voss nodded enthusiastically. "The medical and technological advancements we could achieve together are beyond imagination." A human diplomat stepped forward, her initial wariness replaced by curiosity. "The potential benefits to both our societies could be immense," she agreed. Elder Lysera's leaves rustled thoughtfully. "This changes the nature of our relationship entirely," she communicated. "We are not just two species seeking alliance. We are long-lost kin, reunited." As the implication sank in, the atmosphere in the chamber transformed. The initial tension melted away, replaced by a growing sense of excitement and possibility. In the days that followed, the Hive City hummed with activity. Human scientists and diplomats integrated into Illyrian society, marveling at the bioorganic technology and the intricate social structures. Selected Illyrians prepared for their first visits to Earth, eager to experience the world of their distant cousins. Jeffrey and Dr. Voss took charge of the newly formed Research Institute, working tirelessly to unlock more secrets from the artifact. Deneb's unique physiology made her an invaluable part of the team, able to interface with the ancient technology in ways neither humans nor Illyrians could alone. Thrix, once the leader of the conservative faction, found himself re-evaluating his stance. The proof of shared ancestry had shaken his beliefs to the core. He approached Jeffrey one day, his leaves drooping slightly in what Jeffrey had come to recognize as a gesture of humility. "I was wrong to resist so strongly," Thrix communicated. "I see now that change doesn't have to mean the loss of our identity. It can lead to growth beyond what we imagined possible." Jeffrey nodded, extending his hand in a gesture of reconciliation. Thrix wrapped a tendril around it, the two species literally bridging the gap between them. As the newly formed Human-Illyrian alliance flourished, Jeffrey found himself at a crossroads. His original mission, to return to Earth, now seemed unnecessary. His bond with Deneb had grown stronger with each passing day, and the work they were doing on Illyria felt more important than anything he'd ever been part of before. One evening, as they stood watching the sun set over the alien landscape, Jeffrey turned to Deneb. "I've made a decision," he said softly. "I want to stay here, on Illyria, with you." Deneb's form glowed softly in the fading light, her hybrid features softening with emotion. "Are you sure? Earth is your home." Jeffrey smiled, taking her hand in his. "Not anymore. My home is here now. With you, with this work we're doing. I've never felt more purposeful, more alive." As they embraced, the last rays of the sun illuminated the Hive City behind them. The once alien structures now seemed to Jeffrey like the promise of a new future, one that bridged the gap between two worlds and promised a brighter tomorrow for both humans and Illyrians. In the heart of the city, the ancient artifact pulsed gently, its secrets still largely untapped, and in orbit above, the stars beckoned, holding the promise of further discoveries and the answers to questions they had only just begun to ask.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.